All right, imagine this for a second, okay? You're a teenager,
Hmm.
and suddenly you're ripped away from everything you know
Oh, wow.
and thrown onto a whaling ship in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Talk about culture shock, right?
Oh, absolutely. A wild, wild scenario. And that's exactly what happens to Manjiro, our main man, in this deep dive.
This is one historical account I couldn't wait to get into.
Yeah.
It's a whale of a tale, literally.
Bailey.
We're talking about the John Howland,
Okay.
a real tough, no-nonsense whaling ship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we meet Manjiro and his friend, Gomon.
Right.
They're essentially captives at this point, but the
Yeah.
account makes it clear they're treated decently enough.
You know, that decency, that humane treatment, it was often a make-or-break thing back then,
Yeah.
especially in the 19th century.
Survival of the fittest, even in a cultural sense, right?
Absolutely.
And one thing that strikes you about Manjiro right away is his curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
The kid just bombards the crew with questions.
Chuckles.
Yeah.
He's got that fire.
About the ship, how things work.
Can you blame him?
I mean, everything's new.
Right? It's like stepping onto another planet for him.
You know, it reminds me of those old sailor diaries we talked about.
Yeah. Those are something else.
Young guys finding themselves in these crazy situations,
Right.
writing it all down.
Meticulous, those details, weren't they?
Like their own little windows into the past.
Exactly. That urge to understand the unknown. It's powerful, especially when survival's on the line.
And for Manjiro, I think he sensed that knowledge, even in this totally alien world, was his way to survive, to navigate it.
To make sense of it all.
And he's resourceful, too.
Oh, how so?
He starts stashing away these little treasures like scraps of food, trinkets, things that remind him of home.
Those little pieces of home, they're more than just objects.
Yeah.
They're his identity, holding on in this massive cultural shift.
It's like those little things grounded him,
Absolutely, a touchstone.
But we can't forget the crew, especially the captain.
Captain Whitfield, right?
Yeah, he's described as this gruff, quiet guy, a man of few words.
The strong, silent type.
But the account also emphasizes his fairness.
Interesting.
And here's the thing.
What's that?
He actually encourages Manjiro's curiosity.
Really?
Like he's telling him to never stop questioning, keep learning.
That's huge, especially coming from the captain.
It really challenges those preconceived notions Manjiro and Goyan had about these barbarians.
Remember, this is the 19th century. The West and the East, they had these very, very different, often inaccurate views of each other.
Yeah, and it's like this encounter with the captain, it starts to break down those walls a little.
It plants a seed.
Exactly, a seed of understanding.
Because that same ship, the one that brought them together, it becomes, well, the setting for Manjiro's next big lesson.
Oh, you mean
the whale hunt.
The whale hunt. Talk about a high-stakes learning experience, right?
That's an understatement.
It all starts with the lookout,
Yeah.
Spotting something on the horizon.
Out in the distance.
And it's like this split-second observation throws the whole ship into overdrive.
Controlled chaos. Almost like a well-oiled machine.
And the source material really gets into it, like the technical side of whaling.
Right. Because it wasn't as simple as just, spotting a whale.
No, not at all.
These guys, they needed to know navigation, ship handling.
They had to understand the ocean.
Even, and this might sound strange considering the time period, but even early marine biology.
Wow, so they really had to know their stuff.
They did. And these guys, they were the experts. They'd done this 1,000 times.
So they spring into action, like it's second nature to them.
Instinct, pure instinct.
Except for Manjiro, of course. Yeah, poor Manjiro, stuck in the middle of it all. Clueless.
Completely baffled, and I love how the account describes Goemon stepping in.
Oh, yeah. What does he say?
Trying to explain it all.
Because, he's just as scared as Manjiro is.
Oh, absolutely. But he tries to make sense of it all, and he tells Manjiro.
What's he say? He says, these sailors, they hunt Japanese boys.
Japanese boys?
Yeah, it's kind of dark, kind of funny,
It's like that nervous laughter, when you're in a situation you don't understand.
It reminds me of that time you were in rural Japan.
Oh, don't remind me.
At local festival, right?
Yeah, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on.
But you just smiled and nodded along?
What else could I do?
That's it. That's the feeling.
Just gotta roll with it sometimes.
But for Manjiro, that moment of levity,
yeah,
it disappears pretty quickly.
How so?
Because all of a sudden, he's being pushed into a whaling boat.
No way!
Swept up in all the action.
Talk about a trial by fire.
It really is, and the account doesn't shy away from it,
From what?
From describing the sheer terror of it all.
Well, I mean, put yourself in his shoes.
You're out there.
In the middle of the ocean.
Staring down this massive creature.
It's like something out of a legend, a myth.
Exactly, and I think that's something we forget sometimes, you know?
Man.
For us, whales, they're magnificent creatures, majestic even.
Right, endangered, we want to protect them.
But back then, for those sailors, they were a source of income, resources.
Yeah, a way of life.
But for Manjiro, he's coming face to face with something almost mystical.
Something that represents the raw power of nature.
It's like staring down a monster from your nightmares, only this one's very, very real. And the source material really paints a picture, you know.
Tell me about it. It's like you're right there on the deck.
The way the whale emerges,
It's huge.
it's like the ocean itself is giving birth to this massive, majestic being.
It's an image that goes beyond words, beyond culture,
It really does. But for Manjiro, in the midst of all this,
Yeah.
there's this internal struggle going on.
Oh, I bet.
You know, he's got his Buddhist upbringing.
Right, reverence for all living things.
Exactly. And here he is caught in this brutal hunt.
It's that clash of values that always comes up.
It's like he's being forced to reconcile his beliefs with the reality staring him in the face.
A real moral tightrope walk, and he's right there in the thick of it.
He doesn't have the luxury of observing from afar, you know?
Not at all. He's got to figure it out on the fly.
He's bailing water, taking orders,
Trying to keep up with those seasoned whalers.
and the source mentions that he even earns praise from the captain for
Yeah.
his quick thinking during the hunt.
Wow. So in the middle of all that chaos,
He steps up.
he proves himself.
He does, but it's clear the experience leaves a mark on him.
Well, yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
The excerpt describes him as exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
uneasy,
Makes sense.
struggling to make sense of it all.
He's still just a kid, really.
That's what gets me, you know? He's just a teenager thrown into this extraordinary situation.
Something that would shake even the toughest sailor.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
the captain steps in,
Oh, this is interesting. What does he do?
but not how you'd expect.
What do you mean?
He defends Manjiro.
Against?
Jolly.
Jolly, what did he do?
He calls Manjiro a heathen, a pagan.
That ingrained prejudice.
But the captain shuts it down.
He sticks up for Manjiro.
He does, and that small gesture, to me, it speaks volumes.
It shows he sees something in Manjiro.
Exactly.
Some potential, some worth.
And then, get this, the captain gives Manjiro a new name.
A new name, what is it?
John Mung.
John Mung. That's quite a moment, isn't it?
It really is, and it makes you think about names.
How so?
The power they hold, the connection to identity, belonging.
Was the captain trying to help Manjiro fit in, you think?
Maybe, or was it about control, you know? Trying to erase part of Manjiro's Japanese identity.
It's hard to say for sure.
It really is, and the account ends on such a poignant note.
How's that?
It describes the moon rising over the dead whale, casting this long shadow on the deck of the ship.
And there's Manjiro,
Standing there, now John Mung, the whale hunter, caught between two worlds.
forced to adapt, evolve, take on this new identity in this harsh new world.
And it makes you wonder about those unexpected turns life takes, the things that shape who we become.
The names we carry, the ones we're given, the ones we choose.
It's all part of the journey, right? And Manjiro's story, it makes you realize
What's that?
we're never truly finished becoming, are we?
No, I suppose we aren't.
And that's what I love about these deep dives.
Me too. You find yourself thinking about them long after they're over.
They spark something, you know?
They get under your skin.
You really do. Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone.
It was a pleasure as always.
And remember, keep exploring. Keep asking questions.
There's a whole world out there just waiting to be discovered.
That's right. And we'll be here to dive into it with you. Until next time.